Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the recent explosion at Iran's Parchin nuclear plant was no accident. A Kuwaiti newspaper reported that the blast, which rocked the secretive Iranian facility 2 weeks ago, was in fact an act of international sabotage by a foreign country. Iran is suspected of conducting atomic research at the heavily fortified site. The rogue Islamic Republic refuses to allow inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency into the facility, and that only adds to concerns that the Ayatollahs are in fact using the plant to create a nuclear weapon. Several Iranian nuclear scientists and high-ranking military officials have been assassinated in the past few years, and there's also been explosions at several Iranian weapons facilities. Israel, of course, remains tight-lipped about the incidents, but the Kuwaiti news report insists that the explosion at Parchin was a deliberate act.
The Palestinians and the United Nations Works and Relief Agency for Palestinian Refugees issued a plea for assistance in rebuilding Gaza at a special donors conference in Cairo last week. The United States already provided $330 million to the Palestinians this past summer and promised another immediate aid package of $212 million. It's important to note that just 50% of the financial donations raised are earmarked for reconstruction in Gaza, and that the other half is set to pay long overdue municipal salaries and budgetary support in the Palestinian Authority. UNRWA formerly requested $1.6 billion from contributing nations, although the agency's reputation has been tainted since its facilities in Gaza were used to store and launch missiles into Israel during Operation Protective Edge. Greater governmental supervision into UNRWA's activities was one of the subjects addressed by a delegation of international parliamentarians in Jerusalem just last week. Yochanan has more on that story.
Yes, Aaron, mismanagement of the UNRWA funds was one of the issues discussed by a delegation of Christian parliamentarians from 16 countries around the world. These leaders were in Israel last week during the Feast of Tabernacles to participate in the Israel Allies Foundation's annual Chairman's Conference, where they set their legislative agenda for the coming year. The political leaders toured the Jewish state with their Israeli counterparts and participated in forums and security briefings. The group collectively signed a petition to increase their government's supervision of funding to UNRWA, whose conduct and agenda has become increasingly suspect since their facilities were used to house terrorists and weapons during this summer's Hamas war of terror against Israel. The group also discussed the persecution of Christians throughout Muslim countries in the Middle East. Rabbi Benny Alon, president of the Israel Allies Foundation, released a statement saying that, unfortunately, hatred toward the Jewish state, which exposes the connection between radical Islam and the extreme left, is making more noise and gaining more recognition than ever before. Alon added that it is important to know that around the world there are hundreds of millions of supporters of Israel, and we are trying to channel that into political action to help Israel.
Islamic State fighters are claiming responsibility for the recent bombing of the French Cultural Center in Gaza. The group actually distributed flyers which said that the explosion was the debut operation for the Islamic State group in the Strip, and that ISIS operatives successfully targeted the institution for its immorality and heresy. The publication went on to boast that the terrorist group used more than 200 tons of explosives that its agents planted near gas tanks at the center.
Earlier this month, 2 Israeli soldiers were injured by Hezbollah terrorists who fired into Israel from Lebanon. Now, new information has surfaced that the Hezbollah operatives were acting under direct orders from Tehran. Hezbollah is Iran's proxy army in Lebanon. Members of this terrorist militia are trained by Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard. This is the latest in a series of incidents escalating tension along Israel's northern border.
The NYPD is ordering an increased police presence at sporting events affiliated with Israel after a Jewish man was brutally beaten by pro-Palestinian activists at an exhibition basketball game last week. According to a report in the Jewish Daily Forward, Palestinian activists waited outside the arena where Maccabi Tel Aviv was competing against the New York Nets. The protesters had already been removed from the event by security personnel after they attempted to disrupt the game by laying Palestinian flags down on the court. The 42-year-old victim was attacked in front of his 2 young children in a beating that left him with a broken nose and 8 stitches under his eye.
Canada's former Justice Minister Irwin Cotler addressed the House of Commons in Ottawa regarding Iran's persecution of religious minorities. Iran has sentenced several Christians to imprisonment or death. Cotler called for an end to what he described as the wave of wanton executions in Iran. He appealed to his fellow members of parliament to join him in urging Iranian President Rouhani to cease and desist from this execution binge and to release prisoners threatened with imminent death and to end Iran's culture of impunity.
The mayor of London has gone on the record saying that British security forces are monitoring thousands of potential Islamic terrorists in the United Kingdom's capital city. Mayor Boris Johnson told the Daily Telegraph that in London, we are very, very vigilant and very, very concerned. Just 2 months ago, British Prime Minister David Cameron said that the Islamic State poses the greatest security threat ever to England and raised its security level to the second highest of severe, indicating that an attack is highly likely.
Syria has reportedly declared the existence of 4 chemical weapons facilities that it previously concealed. A special representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations reported the finding to the UN Security Council last week. This discovery highlights the concern that Syria has not been forthright about its chemical weapons program, and fear is mounting that radical Islamic State fighters could gain control of stockpiles from Syria's banned chemical weapons program.
A group of ultra-Orthodox Jewish men have joined forces with British police in efforts to help protect Muslims in London. There is increasing concern over a public backlash against Britain's Islamic community following the perpetration of a series of terrorist attacks and public beheadings by British Muslims. Shulem Stern, who is a member of the Haredi force known as Shomrim, said that there has been a spike in anti-Muslim hate crime all over England, including the firebombing of mosques, and said that the Jewish community has decided to utilize their neighborhood watch guards to benefit Greater London. These 25 religious Jews are working hard to protect the Muslim community in the city in order to regularly maintain watch over the local mosques. They are becoming an invaluable asset to London security authorities, and Police Superintendent Andy Walker has acknowledged that the Shomrim are very much the eyes and ears of the police.
An Arab man was murdered by fellow Arabs last week after he sold property in Jerusalem to Jews. Hundreds of Arabs rioted after a handful of Israeli Jews purchased and moved into several apartments in the predominantly Arab neighborhood of Silwan. The Jews were threatened and were forced to remain in their homes under police protection. The man who was said to have sold the property to the Jewish residents was later brutally murdered for selling his land to Jews.
The Israeli Tourism Ministry is considering a proposal to open an additional entrance to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City so that non-Muslims can safely access the holy site. Jews and Christians have long demanded a change in the status quo in the area because the Muslim Waqf Authority currently controls it and often restricts visitation by non-Muslims or totally denies them access. Christians and Jews are forbidden from praying there and until now have been forced to use a narrow, rickety bridge to access the Temple Mount. The leader of Liba, the movement for freedom on the Temple Mount, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, pointed out that there are 11 entrances to the Temple Mount, 10 of which are open only to Muslims, but just one that's open to the tens of thousands of tourists and Jews wishing to enter the area. Every day, he says, the numbers waiting in line are increasing and the load is too much for the gate to handle. The issue of shared access to the Temple Mount has historically served as an excuse for Muslims to riot in the Old City. It was recently revealed that the Hamas terrorist organization was even paying Palestinian youth to stage violent clashes against Israeli security officials at the site. And just last week, dozens of Palestinian youth stockpiled firebombs, bricks, rocks, and fireworks in an attempt to attack Jewish worshippers and Israeli police after morning prayers. Masked Palestinian assailants pummeled the officers before being barricaded within the Al-Aqsa Mosque in an attempt to safeguard non-Muslim worshippers at the site.
A team of Israeli swimmers have broken the world record for long-distance swimming in the open sea. 6 Israeli athletes swam from Cyprus to Israel in a 6-day marathon effort to raise awareness for ocean conservation and the prevention of water pollution. The swimmers have been nominated for the World Open Water Swimming Association's annual award. And the Guinness Book of World Records is in the process of confirming the journey and is expected to announce its recognition of the record.
More than 1 million Jewish children have been killed by abortion in Israel since 1948. Israel is currently engaged in a demographic war for its very survival as a Jewish state. Imagine what a difference 1 million more Jews would have made for Israel. Friends of Efrat saves the lives of thousands of children every year by providing support to pregnant women in distress. Since 1977, Efrat has saved over 30,000 lives and is recognized as a world leader in preventing abortions. You can play a major role in Israel's survival now by helping us save Israel's unborn children.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in Jerusalem on a beautiful day on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Sivan Yaari, founder of Innovation Africa. Sivan, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh.
Sivan, tell our viewers a little bit about what is Innovation Africa.
Innovation Africa is a non-profit organization which is based in New York, in America. And our mission is to bring Israeli innovations to African villages.
You know, Israel's known as the high-tech nation, the startup nation. Why is technology such a great way of helping other countries?
You know, Israel is facing and faced the same challenges that African countries are facing today. Dry land, short in food, at least before. And so most of the technologies that are coming from Israel today are very relevant to the challenges that Africa is still facing. And it seems to be the right thing to do, is just to transfer those technologies to those that are in most needs.
We've had great success in Africa. We've had in Kenya the flower industry that we've been able to grow, and also solar technology. What are some of the cutting edge technologies that we're exporting into Africa today?
Most of what Innovation Africa is bringing is Israel technologies when it comes to agriculture and solar energy. So in Africa, as you know, Josh, there is lack of water. And in order to pump the water, you need energy. So what we are doing very simply from Israel, we bring solar technologies, we bring them to dry land, drought areas in Africa, and we're using the solar energy to pump water. Once we pump water, we are providing the villagers with also drip irrigation, something that's been invented in Israel, something that Israel has been using for many years, and something that is quite relevant to those who are in needs.
There's a lot of economic cooperation between Israel and Africa, yet politically they don't seem to stand with Israel. Do you think this type of cooperation will help Israel politically in Africa as well?
Oh yes, Josh, I truly do believe. Listen, our organization, Innovation Africa, has brought solar technologies from Israel to 82 villages. We're talking about 670,000 people that now have access to water, drip irrigation, vaccines, medicines, lights, And most of them have never known about Israel before, never had any opinion about Israel. And yet, not for the first time, they're seeing Israeli technologies, people that care about them, that are coming and help. And I truly believe that that will create a great partnership in the future between those who are now being empowered and future cooperation between Israel and African continent, certainly.
Now, you've actually been awarded by the UN recently for some of the innovations that you're bringing to Africa. Tell us about that.
That's right. Well, it's very exciting because at the United Nations, we have introduced them the kind of innovations that we are bringing from Israel to Africa. And from all of the other organizations that have been there presenting, we have received the award for innovation. And really what we've been awarded for is a technology that we bring from Israel that is allowing us to monitor all of the solar system that we are installing in Africa remotely, meaning that all of the solar system that we are installing on orphanages, schools, medical clinic, and pumping water, all of those we can monitor and making sure that everything is operating remotely. And we're talking at the most remote villages in Africa. So this has been terrific, and it just shows that really people understand that Israel is the startup nation, and it's true that great innovations are coming out of here. And it's been recognized, and that was just a great achievement for us.
You just finished a massive project in Uganda. What's next for Innovation Africa?
Well, Innovation Africa is now operating in Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi, South Africa, Congo being the poorest country in the world, Malawi, Ethiopia. And it's true that we have powered 82 villages so far. Unfortunately, there are still many villages that are waiting. And our goal is just, our humble contribution is really just to get more solar panels, bring them to those villages, pumping water, providing light. And our goal is just to continue and help more people.
You know, Israeli technology can be used all over the world. There's needs for it in South America, there's needs for it in Asia. Why did you choose Africa?
Well, it's a great question, and it's true. There is need everywhere. However, when we are looking at the poverty that exists in Africa, unfortunately, there are just too many children that are thirsty, that are dying from hunger, and I'm sure it does exist everywhere else too, but Africa is a very large continent, 54 countries, 90% of them living in poverty, and there is no access to energy. One of the problems that really exists in Africa is the lack of energy. Once we provide them with some light, literally, we're taking them, we bring light to overcome the darkness by providing them some solar panels. And there is so much that still needs to be done in Africa, and I'm just hoping that we can continue and contribute to that beautiful continent.
Sivan, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, Josh, I think we are all messengers of God. I truly do believe. And I think my humble contribution to this world is just being able to transfer the beauty and the good that are coming out of Israel and just transfer it so that we can do good to other human beings that are suffering. So I'm sure that we can all do it together. It's simple, it's cheap, it's easy. It's just a matter of doing it together, and let's help others.
Sivan, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
It is heartbreaking to learn that there are over 40,000 abortions in Israel every year, many of which are due to financial concerns. The Efrat organization saves the lives of thousands of Jewish children each year by providing support to pregnant women in distress. Please help us save thousands more.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
I want to talk to you today about Dr. Martin Luther King's pro-Israel legacy. Was Dr. King pro-Israel? Dr. King was a staunch supporter of the state of Israel and the Jewish people. We have his own words to that effect. On the Middle East crisis, we have had various responses. The response of some of the so-called young militants does not represent the position of the vast majority of Negroes. There are some who are color consumed and they see a kind of mystique in being colored, and anything non-colored is condemned. We do not follow that course in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and certainly most of the organizations in the civil rights movement do not follow that course. Peace for Israel means security, and we must stand with all of our might to protect its right to exist, its territorial integrity. I see Israel, and never mind saying it, as one of the great outposts of democracy in the world, and a marvelous example of what can be done, how desert land almost can be transformed into an oasis of brotherhood and democracy. Peace for Israel means security, and that security must be a reality. On the other hand, we must see what peace for the Arabs mean in a real sense of security on another level. Peace for the Arabs means the kind of economic security that they so desperately need. These nations, as you know, are part of that third world of hunger, of disease, of illiteracy. I think that as long as these conditions exist, there will be tensions. There will be the endless quest to find scapegoats. So there is a need for a Marshall Plan for the Middle East, where we lift those who are at the bottom of the economic ladder and bring them into the mainstream of economic security. Here it should be noted that over the last 19 years, the Palestinian Authority has received the equivalent of 25 Marshall Plans, tens of billions of dollars to go to do exactly what Dr. King advocated, yet poverty persists in the Palestinian territories. Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian Authority president, makes a reported $1 million a month. The Palestinian Authority itself receives an annual budget of about $2 billion. In the area of Gaza, population of about 1.6 million, Hamas, the ruling party, boasts some 1,700 millionaires. We don't know exactly what Dr. King would say if he were here, but we would have to assume that when he said Marshall Plan, he was not talking about wealth for the upper echelons of the rulership and poverty for the rest of the Palestinian people.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
In 1980, the Israeli parliament passed a law declaring a united Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the State of Israel. Threatened by the Arab League with an oil embargo, national embassies in Jerusalem closed their doors. That same year, Christians from around the world gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Sensing the isolation of the Israeli people, the participants and leaders of this gathering decided to establish the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
It's always important for us to remember that the Christian embassy was actually established out of the Feast of Tabernacles. And this is something which marvels me until today, to think that for now more than 30 years, Christians are coming from all over the world to celebrate with us a Jewish festival, Sukkot. Ray, what is your experience with that?
Just for me personally, it's such an amazing expression of unity of the body of Christ to see so many Christians from so many different backgrounds, from so many different faith origins, and they come to Jerusalem and everything is kind of put aside with just this heart and intent to number one, worship the Lord, but then also to want to be a blessing to this nation and an encouragement to this nation. I think it's a great opportunity for people to come, and it's a great season for people to come and visit Israel.
You are traveling all over the world. You know what it means to see churches all over the world supporting Israel.
Yeah, we not only have a mandate here in Israel, but we also have it in the nations.
Yes.
And in the nations, we serve the local body of Christ with our message. Jesus at the center, his character of covenant-keeping God highlighted in his dealings with Israel. And the Lord has been good to us. We've been able to touch the whole nations. We raised the global prayer on behalf of Israel, and we are acting as a bridge between the Gentile nations and Israel. And we do all this because we know that whoever blesses Israel shall be blessed.
Actually, to bless Israel, practically there's much more than just coming here as a visitor to this land. Nicole, what can people do in order to help Israel very practically?
Well, since Israel was established as a nation, you know that they've been very successful in a great many areas. However, there's still a lot of challenges that Israel faces today in the area of social needs. And it gives us an opportunity as Christians to reach out in a practical expression of love and support for this people and to say to Israel that she's not alone. We have the privilege and the opportunity to work with every sector of Israeli society, whether that's the Jewish, secular, Orthodox, Arabs, Druze, Bedouin, everyone in the whole society. We have the opportunity to work in every sector.
I like what 1 Corinthians 13 says, the love chapter, how it describes love as patient and kind. It also says that love rejoices in the truth. As Christians, we want to be out there, and we carry out our media publications initiative through many mediums. We have a daily news service where reports go out by email. We also post it on our website, www.icej.org. And we have a weekly radio program, Front Page Jerusalem, heard on about 100 Christian radio stations across North America, also around the world. We have weekly TV spots now on Daystar. We're going to be working with God TV on a weekly program called Word from Jerusalem. And our monthly magazine is also called Word from Jerusalem, which it gives you updates about our events, our activities, also current affairs, analysis, I think most important Bible teachings about Israel. And I think when you get to the core of it, we want to speak biblical truth to the church, to the nations about Israel.
You just had the privilege to meet our leadership team here in Jerusalem and to be part of one of our strategic meetings which take place every single week here. Here we strategize, we plan, we think about how we can bless Israel at the best. And I want to invite you personally today to partner with the International Christian Embassy here in Jerusalem. We are your embassy. We want to be there for you in order to convey your blessings and to convey your love to the Jewish people. Please stand with us, please pray for us, and prayerfully consider to support us financially. Thank you so much, and may the Lord bless you here out of Zion.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.